Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Jade, and this is How to App on iOS, the interview. Boom. And today, we're going to be talking with one of the beautiful minds of the community, Midnight Bandit. Let's play a song. This is The Crooked Path. Hello, welcome to the show. My name is Jade, and this is the interview. You're doing well out there. It's Friday morning here in Australia, the end of the week for me, kind of, sort of, maybe, and Thursday for the rest of you. This is my favourite time of the week. Why? Because I get to talk to cool people, and I like talking to cool people because it makes me feel cool. Okay? All right, we sorted. Welcome to those who've joined us and hanging out. That was, of course, our guest today, Midnight Bandit, and the track was, of course, as I go back here, The Crooked Path. And I hope you're all walking a crooked path today because it's the best path to walk on. It keeps you creative. Nobody wants to walk down a straight line, do we? That's boring. I'm in a stupid mood today because yesterday I did a stream where I didn't talk. And I know it was probably confusing, but it's all right. Sometimes it's better not to talk, because if I had have spoken yesterday on that stream, you wouldn't have liked what I had to say. You like my shirt, Leela? If you got problems with people, folks, guess what? I've got the shirt for you. Problem solved. It's a bit bloody, but we're good. All righty, let's bring on our guests. So, as you know, we do these interviews every week with always interesting and different people, different levels, different calibers, but they're all treated exactly the same because, yes, my shoulder is blood-soaked heavy metal, because creativity is an amazing thing that has helped so many people, not only to release music and get music out there and have people listen to it, but it's good for the soul, man. It's good to release music and do. It just makes you feel better. If I didn't have music in my life, I would be absolutely you know what I'm saying? Anyway, let's bring on our guest. I know him as Jared. You might know him as Jared as well, but most of us know him as the Midnight Bandit. He's been a big part of this community, making really cool and interesting beats. He stands alone as an artist because he doesn't take any prisoners and he doesn't follow any norms or anything like that. And this is what we want. This is how creative artists make great music. So we're going to bring him on today and we're going to find out all about this amazing, complex human being. Like all the rest of us, we're all bloody complex, crazy fools. So let's bring him on right now, ladies and gentlemen. The Midnight Bandit. That's Oj. Hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How you going?
I'm doing really good today, actually. I'm in a really good headspace.
Good. That's what we love. And, you know, even when you're not, that's okay too, because you know what? I haven't been in a good headspace this week. And I've had a lot of people reach out and say, "You okay?" And a lot of them I haven't responded to, Jared. Do you know why? Because they probably can't do anything to help. It's tough, isn't it? Because people want to reach out and say kind things and help all the time, but sometimes it just doesn't work. How do you
Yeah,
how
no,
do, how do you cope when somebody offers to help and how do you take it on? Does it help? Do you want to talk about it, or do you just want to deal with it yourself?
depends really on what that thing is
Yep.
that I need help with, but I consider anyone who reaches out to me first, or like, if they see something where I look like I've been going through a stressful situation or something like that, that if people are like, "Hey man, are you okay?" Like, they don't have to have the perfect solution for me. That is the perfect solution. Just to see people who essentially care enough to reach out. I tend to reach out to a lot of people first, but it is really special when you have someone who's like, "Hey, how you doing?" Right? So that's how I feel.
Very true. I'm going to ask you the question I ask everyone who comes on this show.
hmm
It's sometimes it feels like the easiest question, but sometimes it's not. What does music mean to you?
What does music mean to me? I think it means exactly what I want it to mean any specific day. Like, it's the meaning I put into it. Like, if music is there for me to listen to because I want to heighten my mood, or I want to, complement a situation, then that's the thing. If I want it as something that heals me or helps me sort through emotions that are maybe perhaps hard to feel, it can be so many different things. It's a very it's malleable, and it's basically whatever you want it to be. So I'd say if I were to bring it to one definition, it would be just a holistic way of how to help myself feel life to a greater degree.
I like that. I like that. See, when I was younger, it used to be just caveman. I just want to make beats and
Mm,
go out and slam my body into people.
mhm.
And that was fine. That was good for the time. Now I go to a gig, and if somebody's slamming into each other, I go and sit back at the on the outside because I don't want to break
Right.
my bones. But it is many many things, and it's something that we've all. It's been around us our whole lives. What are your thoughts on this? I think that we'd be better off as a species if we stopped talking and music was our language. What do you think on that?
I'm not sure. That's an interesting concept. I'd have to see it actually like presented, perhaps in a movie or some kind of piece of media. But I think that if tones and stuff, like, are we talking about music with lyrics or music with just the sounds itself? Because if it's lyrics, then it's just the same kind of communication. But without, I think people would still attribute certain negativity bits of things to music. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But it sounds like a really cool idea.
And I don't know either. It's a hypothetical and it's never going to happen. But I thought I'd just throw it at you
Yeah.
just to put you in a tough spot there, because
Hmm.
that's what I don't know. I think you're right. I think with lyrics added, we are in the same
Mm.
place. It's just still verbal salad. With people trying to come up with new ways to get out of things. Where music, though, if you look at tribes, it was more chanting and dancing and sticks and whatever they used to make sound and rhythm. It was more or less rhythm, rhythm was the thing. And I don't know. I wonder if they were happier then, just dancing around to rhythm and not having to deal with the gobbledygook rubbish we speak out of our mouths, trying to define everything and create more of a mess each day. I think it keeps me up at night.
Yeah. I mean, I would assume that if you had to look at that situation, you'd have to take it as a total package rather than just the music itself. I mean, back in the caveman days, there's probably a lot more going on that you probably wouldn't want to have to deal with. But I mean, like, yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know.
dinosaurs and well,
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 it's like even things like getting clean drinking water, right?
yeah.
I mean, these are things that we take for granted. I mean, you could drink, I mean, in certain places you can drink out of the toilet and not get sick, right? And that, finding even like, yeah, it's just I think living back in those days versus living now has a completely different skill set, and maybe that attitude was present in the music that they were making. I don't know. But
I think I've inadvertently drank out of the toilet before.
hmm
I think maybe all of us have. I think maybe we've all eaten something that's been close to the toilet. I mean, where am I going with this? These shows always go somewhere stupid. The toothbrush is in the bathroom open every day. They say that an exposed toothbrush in a bathroom is filthier than the actual toilet. Apparently,
what is it? I think I was gonna say Singapore, but no, Taiwan. In Taiwan, they have a toilet themed restaurant where the food
oh,
comes in little toilets and you sit on little toilets and it's just it's hilarious. But the food's amazing, obviously, but it's all toilet themed and it's just like I don't know. So someone had that idea that they're just like awake at night, 3 o'clock in the morning. I've got it. Like,
by George, I've got it. Hey, you know
yeah.
what? The craziest ideas often turn out to be the best ones. If
Hmm.
this is a thing. Semtex Cow says I dropped my phone in the crapper. Lucky no floaters. But you got to love our audience here that we've
Yeah,
cultivated.
you gotta be grateful for the small things in life, like not having any floaters.
No floaters. That is going to be today's takeaway. No floaters, and we're all good.
Hmm.
When you were growing up, do you recall around any kind of family situation, be it what it was,
Mm.
music that was played by family members, and who were some of these artists? Do you remember them? Did they
Hmm.
influence you? Tell me about it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm not going to try to talk for like a million years, but I do have a lot on this subject. So, the first time I can remember well, I didn't remember it. My mom remembered it and told me, and so did my dad. And I was born in 1990, and around that time, hip hop was really big, right? So, at least I don't think it would be playing on the radio very much. Maybe I'm wrong. But MC Hammer. MC Hammer, whenever his song "Can't Touch This" would come on the radio, it would immediately send me into a dancing frenzy and I would just absolutely love that song. So that was like, I think when I first knew that it's just something that's going to stick with me my whole life. And then later on, I would just listen to everything my parents listened to until I found, like, my dad. He was a gamer, which is really cool. I think it's cool to have parents, especially, like, I think he's Gen X, but to have older individuals who are into video gaming. And he was into this game called Unreal Tournament, which
Yes.
was released in 1999, by Epic Games, who went on to make Fortnite, which is, you may have heard of it. But um, back then, he would make maps, like the levels. He actually he took there's an introduction sequence when you turn on the game. Uh, it flies through this like city streets and this dystopian future setting, and he actually found the codes for that intro scene, the map that they used, and he turned it into an actual level, and I thought that was cool. Anyways, the music in that game was like a lot of ambient 90s techno, drum and bass, jungle kind of stuff, and for some reason it's something that stuck with me for so long I think because of that connection with me and my dad. And then when I started to listen to more of it later on in life, I'm like, I need to do that. I need to make that, right?
It's interesting. You bring up that kind of thing. Now, I've asked this question to over 150 people, but I've
Mm,
never really had anyone talk about gaming music. And it's something that I think gets overlooked because being a gamer myself for a very long time, was proud to have the first Atari 2600 in my neighborhood, and all the kids came over and even the ones who wanted to bash me came over. Um,
mm,
but video game music is so compelling. I have so many recordings from, like, uh, Resident Evil and Metal Gear Solid. Just so much of the music is so compelling, and I think we forget that genre of music is massive,
mm.
and it really hits a lot of people. And I grew up playing that exact same game, making maps, doing all that kind of stuff. Um, do you think? Because and there's another person in this community too, Jonathan, Hypnotic Transmissions, and I've been telling
Mm.
him for ages, dude, because he releases his music to our broader community, and a lot of people kind of don't get it because it's not your standard music. And I'm always telling him, man, you should be sending this stuff to gaming companies. Like,
Yeah,
this is where the money's at. Send your music to where it's appreciated and that kind of stuff, because it's not the mainstream, and that's okay.
right. And I run into issues because unfortunately people think it's just like, oh, just call up Epic Games, just call up
Yeah.
just call up what's another game company? EA. They're in Vancouver. But it's like it seems exceedingly difficult to try to get a hold of anyone, even just random indie developers to kind of put your music out there. So if there was a better way that I could like find the right people who'd be interested in my unique style of music, then that would be great. But as far as hypnotic transmissions, I think, actually, I think there's a lot more people in this community, the artists that could just make, passive income by putting some of their loops or instrumentals into video games. Because video games can be so, they don't have to be, a video game song doesn't have to sound like video game music, right? But
Yes, true.
yeah.
Yeah, and for people who've wanted to get into that, I'll tell you the best way to do it create a show reel. And you create a show
Mm.
reel by stealing other games that are already out, taking scenes from other games and putting your music to that scene. Right, and that's because you have to have some kind of content. You can't make your own game and then add
Mm.
your own music. But that, if you can create a show reel for 3 minutes with a select bunch of games, that is the way you
Mm.
get in and do that. I know because Jamie Mallander's been looking at doing that kind of thing as well. It's another avenue that people just don't look at. We're all so busy, mate, talking about DistroKid and Bandcamp,
Mm.
but that's not always the case. Do you remember the first album that you purchased with Little Midnight Bandit's pocket money? And that was given to you as a gift, my friend.
So two separate albums? I
Yes.
think.
One that you
Okay.
bought, the first one, and one that was given to you maybe under the Christmas tree or something like that.
That's definitely the one. But I think the first album I ever bought was probably I think I bought the Harry Potter soundtrack.
Nice.
Um, just because John Williams did he did Star Wars, he did Indiana Jones, I believe. Uh, and just his compositions are just so intensely amazing. They are it's very hard to replicate something from his kind of style because it's just it captures the emotions. It's as much part of the movie as everything else in it. It's just thematically perfect for every and I don't know how someone can capture that. It's not like something that's simple to do, really. You can't just yeah, very difficult to do. But I'm gonna that wasn't an album that I really cared for all that much. I think I listened to it a couple times and then yeah, I forgot about it. But the
Ouch.
first, I mean, it's a good album. It's just there are other albums that I feel that I've bought that are much more representative of what I like. Like one of the first albums I bought was it's a hip hop artist called Swollen Members. They're from Vancouver, British Columbia. I don't know if anyone's heard of them, but they're Canadian. And I bought their album, I believe it's Monsters in the Closet, and that album is just 100% all bangers. And that's like one I'm proud of. The one that I got as a gift was also really good as well, which was Jamiroquai. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure everyone knows about Jamiroquai, but like it was this album called A Funk Odyssey, and oh, I love that album so much, so cool.
It is a great album. They are so
Mm.
good. It's funny,
Hmm.
everybody was focused on the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I remember, and just going, you guys are missing Jamiroquai,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah, the complexity of the bass lines and the synths and everything, like it's just timeless music, I think. I mean, it's of a certain era, but it's also like where they do a thing where it seems futuristic and kind of antiquated to some degree, right? Like just a weird, awesome, funky groove. I love it.
Yeah, and there are a lot of bands around that kind of era too that was similar to that. Like you could maybe throw like Living Color, even stuff
Mm.
like the Infectious Grooves,
Hmm.
and a lot of these bands had amazing African American artists who were in a lot of those bands, and it's just a sign of the world, A lot of them got overlooked for something like the Red Hot Chili Peppers that got a lot of attention for being like, oh, but they're the innovators of this kind of stuff. And it's like, no, man,
Mm.
they're not. They just kind of took a lot of drugs, so they get a lot of press. I've got them in my head today for some reason because I watched
Hmm.
a documentary on them last night.
Mm.
So, living in Canada, that's where you live, isn't it? Yes, you live in Canada.
Yeah.
It's early. um, it's early. Do you remember the first gig you went to? I mean, an arena gig was, your first
The
time going
first
to a big
gig.
gig. Yeah, big concert, big band.
Oh, that was Tragically Hip. I don't know if you like
Yes,
if you've watched Pete Johns, he covers them sometimes, but they're a rock band from Ontario, I believe.
they're
I
great.
think yeah, they're wonderful and they're like Canada's national treasure. I saw them uh I saw them on their World Container tour. That was the album. And my favorite song by them was this song called In View. They've got a lot of other classics, but man, was that concert cool. We were in the nosebleeds, but it was just a great, like the sound quality was awesome, the performance, just the musicianship, just almost like slightly better than what you would hear on an album. And I think that is definitely cool. So that was my first one, definitely.
Lovely. What a great gig to go and see. Mine was Kiss, and yeah,
Mm.
it was a gig. It was Gene Simmons.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar. I haven't listened to much like other outside of Detroit Rock City and a few other songs. It just didn't really appeal to me that much. I don't know, but
No, no, you're right. Like, because you grew up in an era where they didn't have the face paint, and you know, and you look at
mm,
them now, and they just look like weirdos. But back then they had all the face paint. And they were actually interesting,
yeah.
and it was so weird because everybody knew as soon as they took that face paint off, nobody was going to give a shit,
Mm.
and it happened. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. Um, all right. Now, as a youngster and going to school, I'm assuming that Canada has a very kind of similar curriculum to Australia, and music is a part of your schooling.
Hmm.
Were you interested in making music at school? Did you do any music schooling? Take any classes there? Did you get forced to play the recorder? Everybody always wants to know that.
Oh,
Um,
my education history, my education background
yes, for
in
music.
music.
Yeah.
Uh, well, to be honest, I really hated music education. Like I did not do well, and I always thought that I was somehow less like I just was not able to be a musician. And like I had to I had to sit through piano lessons where I'm like ding 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 like the simplest, most like I'm like, just let me figure it out on my own. I bet I could figure it out, but no, no, you got to play hot cross buns or something. And then in the class, you're playing songs like My Girl on the ukulele, and I just it's a rigid routine and the constraints of learning something, learning the basics that I just wanted I was captivated by the musical instrument itself, and I just wanted to sit there and kind of take it all in and slowly and just absorb how I would play it, right? That was my thing, and I failed music.
So did I.
So,
In the early days, I did too, because I felt exactly the same. It's like when I picked up
mm,
a guitar. I picked up a guitar only for the reason that my best friend had a guitar, and I thought he was a
mm,
wanker, and I wanted to be
mm,
better than him. That was the sole reason I got a guitar.
mm,
When I went and had lessons, I was just like, I don't give a shit about this circle of fifth shit. I just want to play
mm.
bar chords and pretend I'm in Metallica. And I think there's a lot of musicians out there who struggle with that. The whole learning the process, because they're so individual that the
Mm.
constraints of learning and sitting in a learning environment takes away from the originality that you've got inside. You want to be yourself. Do you think that's the case?
Well, I think that you touch upon something there that is, I think, I don't know if it's an issue, but it's definitely something that happens in a lot of the music world, is that there are people out there who just, um, they want to be a certain musician. Like their dream is to be said musician in said genre doing said thing. And they have like, I think certain people like the idea of a template, or like for me, I never understood why someone would want to learn how to play um someone else's song. Like I know
Mm.
that it seems counterintuitive for most people, but I just want, like, I'm so into not sounding like everyone else. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like, yeah, it's to me, I always want to make something new because I need something novel. I need something unique and original to keep me going because um that's just I just think that's the most important thing for music is try to innovate. Even if you are playing covers or someone else's music, do it in a way that, is thought-provoking, is something that it has never been done before. I mean, you could do what you want, but that's just, I guess, my opinion, right? And
Hey,
that's generally for anyone, right?
you share. Now, I watched this interview too. Ed Zielinski brings up Tori Amos, talked about how the school made her play hot cross buns in the Rick Beato interview
Mm,
she just did, and it crushed her. And I watched that interview. It's probably one of the best interviews of this year. I was glued to it,
mm,
and I was a little bit turned on because Tori Amos is. She's always been a bit of a turn on. It was a great
mm,
interview, and yeah, she talked a lot about that and how constrained she was learning. And it's
mm,
interesting the way she plays piano too. She's instead of just playing to the piano, she's always played open. So she looks at the crowd and opens up,
mm,
which is a very unique way of playing. And she talked about that heavily, but that again felt natural to her, that she felt like she was actually performing to an audience instead of performing to a fucking piano. So
mm.
this is the thing, there's no right way. Anybody who tells you this is the only way to do stuff, I think they're wrong. What are your thoughts on people who deal in absolutes with music?
People who want you to fit into their mold probably are spending a lot of time trying to get people to fit into their mold rather than, doing like creating anything. I think people that are extra hypercritical of everyone around them and what they should and shouldn't do and blah blah blah. You didn't make the snare poppy enough or whatever kind of terminology it is. I think that you really just um, a lot of the time during your music career, I think, and this goes for anyone, you're gonna have you're gonna make a lot of like experimental kind of unfinished preliminary material. So a lot of the stuff that you're going to be doing is practicing, 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 and none of it's going to be perfect. So if someone from a completely different headspace who's probably having problems in their daytime or like they're going through a specific thing that is kind of manipulating their emotions, if they just tell you, oh yeah, this sucks because it's not X, Y, and Z. Like it's meaningless. It's meaningless because the only people that I think it's good to ever listen to are the people who just say, I really feel this, or this is really cool. They give you some feedback in a way where it seems like your music has affected them. And I know that as people, we tend to only focus in on the negative because we want our stuff to be somewhat perfect. Maybe I'm projecting here, but like, um, really, the people that are here to help you, the people who are here because they enjoy you as a personality or just your music or both or whatever, we tend to, I think, listen to them. Uh, well, not as much as we should because the people that we have around us, I just, they are absolutely a blessing. So if some some random guy from some other school of thought tries to fit you into a box, you know, just move on. It's not worth your time. And you have to like, I'm sorry, I'm rambling here, but
No,
like uh your time is valuable. Like your time is absolutely valuable and everyone's time is valuable. You have to honor yourself with that. Sorry, go ahead.
no. You bring up a good point. The box theory. We're born in a box. We're born in a hospital. Put into a box. We're put into a home. We're put into a school. We're put into a job. Boxes. And when we're bad, they put us in another box, a prison. We
Mm,
spend the majority of our life trying to get outside of a box. And then when we finally retire, my friend, we're outside of the box. And guess what?
mm,
Then we die and they put us in a box. The box theory, and I think that is where it's interesting because you've got two trains of thoughts with music. You've got artists who break the box, get out of the box, and become massive because of that.
mm,
And then you have artists that stay in the box and become just as popular. because there's so many people on this planet that we're all so broad and diverse and different, but we all take a poo in the morning and most of us look at the tissue. So, I mean, we don't focus on those things. I'm going to play a song because I'm starting to go crazy talking load of nonsense. And this is the
All
perfect
right.
song to play. We're going to play Insanity Practice. Let's Oge. Boom, the Insanity Practice. Now, normally when I have artists on, I don't really ask, what are the lyrics, what's all that about? Because
Mm-hmm.
discuss all the time. When you kind of divulge that stuff, people may have a different idea of what that song's about, and then their illusions are shattered. But when it's an instrumental, now I can hear some really, I don't know, the scales in there are quite mayhemic. I don't know, crazy. I don't know. There's a real feel to it. What were you conveying when you put together that beautiful song?
Well, really, this goes with any song that I make, any instrumental, is really, I just, it's like a habit. I'll turn on my computer. I will start with, I'll just like kind of in an additive way, I'll add instrument, drums, and then I start with drums, and then I'll add like the bass, and then I'll add, and it just builds itself as time goes on. It's kind of like, how certain people make novels or stories or something like that. Like some people are structured, they have a way to do it, and I just kind of it is a structure in a sense, but it's mostly just I just take let the song take me to where it goes. And I don't know much about modes or scales or anything music theory, although I am learning. But it's really what happens is I'll make the song and then I'll listen to it a few times, and that's when I come up with the name for it. And this name has actually a lot of meaning, the insanity practice, because in my mental health background, there's this idea of practicing. It's somewhat spiritual, but it's like whatever you pay attention to, whatever you put your time and effort into is something that you're practicing, and you could be practicing anything, even ways of thinking or ways of believing. You could be practicing cheat and deceit. You could be practicing happiness, complaining, anything. And something I always have to remind myself is that I can't always believe the things that are going on in my mind. So if like this is what my mentor um, and previous social worker used to say is that you're practicing psychosis. You're practicing because if there's people out there that don't know, I was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder in 20, I believe it was, I mean originally 2009, but yeah, essentially I have to work extra hard and be extra diligent to kind of not practice insanity. And that's just kind of the story behind it.
We're going to talk about that right now. Let's say hello to everybody here, and then we're going to get into this. We're going to talk about mental health. It's one of my favorite subjects to talk about on this channel. I've been doing it ever since I started this channel. So, folks, in the chat, please type something so I can find you. Make it easy for me. And I know you're going to type something. So, I'm used to it. Kubrick Lover, hello. Mr. Smith, Robbie, Stengel, Forest of the Wolf, Ali, Joe, Glenn, hello, Tremor Bear, g'day, and Mars Capone. Who else do we see? As I scroll up a little bit, Rise of Dark Leela. Saw Pete Johns earlier, pop his head in. Who else do I see? Semtex Cow, hello, hello, hello. And I'm going to run out of space up here before I can't see any more names. So, guys, Thomas Christ, of course, who's slinging links because that's what he does. He's amazing. Who else? Ed B. Medals in the house. I'm up the top now, so I'm going to come back down. Guys, I hope you're doing the thing down the bottom. SM Borthwick, thanks for being here. Thank you all for hanging out. If I've missed you, I'll try and catch up and say g'day as we keep going on. Mental health, let's talk about it because it is something that, as I said, I'm always interested in because I think it goes hand in hand with not only life, but making music, but everything. It's important. So now you were diagnosed with schizophrenic. I can't even get my mouth around it. Tell us your journey. How has this been something that's when were you diagnosed, and how was the journey leading up to that? Did you know what was going on? I find it interesting
Yeah,
the lead up to your diagnosis.
yeah, it's a good thing to kind of to introduce a lot of people who may or may not know about this kind of struggle. But essentially, at about age 15 or 16, I started to. I didn't notice the symptoms because I didn't know what was going on. At that point, I did not have a label to call myself or a diagnosis. But it's called the prodromal phase, which is just the kind of lead up to the episode itself. And it's kind of like things in reality don't necessarily make sense anymore. You start getting paranoid. You start, uh, feeling that certain concepts are connected in ways like that certain things have uh, a kind of importance or significance to them when there's no actual significance, there's no connection between the two things, but your mind is gonna like make up whatever kind of story it wants at that time, and it's very strange feeling to go through. It feels like your world is twisting and upside down, and you have no way of knowing what is going on. It's very jarring, and it takes years and years to recover from that. It's actually quite a difficult process, but you do recover. Um, I remember I was hospitalized in 2009, just a few days after my birthday, and I was 19, and that's usually, I think that's usually around when men have their first episode, is like 17 to 20 or something like that, and then women it tends to be a little bit later, like 20 to 25. But yeah, anyways, uh, I struggled quite a long time because the medication is, as much as it helps, it doesn't do as much as you might think it would.
Yep.
So, and it comes with a lot of nasty side effects. Like some medications I was on would make me absolutely sluggish, and I couldn't think, and that freaked me out, which made things worse, and it just spiraled into anxiety and all that stuff. But that's it's a chronic illness. It's something that you deal with every day, and I feel like I feel like I can, to a certain degree, deal with it and cope, and feel like I have value and all that stuff. But it's up and down. It's sometimes I'm really having a hard time. Sometimes it's a little bit easier to deal with, and sometimes I'm just absolutely living and loving life and just feeling absolutely grateful for everything. So, yeah, does that suffice?
Mate, there is no correct answer. This is your story.
Well,
this,
yeah,
this is your story. I want to touch on
yeah,
something. So
mm,
you get put into a hospital. You're 19 years old.
yeah.
What goes through your head, right? Because I think look, I'm not, fucking around here. There's many of us have been admitted into hospital for,
Hmm.
mental illness. I know I have I have been too. What goes through your head? You're in there. You don't understand. You don't know what this is. Do you feel like the walls are closing in? Is this going to be solved? What goes through your head as a 19-year-old being put into hospital?
Wow. It was like being on a different planet. Like
Hmm.
if you could imagine just being, it's like being in a movie. Like that, everything is so surreal. You don't really have a good grasp on anything that's going on. So it's like, but soon after, once you start to collect yourself, I think you say to yourself, like, is this it? Is my life always going to be, because most people with, let's say, schizophrenia or certain schizophrenic type illnesses, spectrum illnesses, but they don't necessarily have the best track record, not all of them, at leading that much of a successful life financially. But it's something that you question, and I think a lot around it is maybe the how difficult it is to treat the symptoms, as well as the attitude that the person puts into where they want to go. If someone doesn't have a direction or a goal, or if they don't even believe that that feeling healthy is possible, it's much more likely for people to isolate, or just have a kind of a rougher time. So to answer your question, I would say when I first got put in there, it was bizarre beyond all imagination. Like, but I eventually decided that I'm not gonna take this as, I'm not gonna take this lying down. I'm gonna do something about it, and I'm gonna become the person who I want to be, right? So,
Absolutely. And you touch
yeah.
on medication, and look, we're not in the same. We don't have the same illnesses, or everybody's got their own things. But the one thing we can talk about is medication. Now, medication's an interesting thing because it solves some problems, but it
Mhm,
doesn't solve all problems, and it creates new problems. And it's kind
mhm,
of medication's a little bit like life. You think everything's all sorted and everything's on a rosy path, but it opens up the door to something else. And we all know, well, I know from living in America, those medication ads that come on, it's like this thing
mhm,
that'll stop you from getting this. But by the way, Side effects may include, and you're like, what the fuck? Well, hang on. Can we slow that back and go, hang on a minute? All those side effects sound a lot worse than what I'm dealing with right now.
Yeah.
Is that something that you've, what are some of the side effects? Have you been able to get onto medication where you're like, hey, this is okay. I'm dealing, I feel better, but then there's, what is this thing that I didn't ask for? I mean, I can go on forever about the
Yeah.
medication they've given me that has
Right.
caused exactly the same thing.
So, as far as medication on my end, I think my team has done a pretty good job at kind of finding medication that works. All for one medication, and it's my ADHD medication because I also, as well as having schizoaffective disorder, I have ADHD. So, I have this medication, and it kind of makes me anxious, paranoid, kind of. It brings out the symptoms of the actual other diagnosis, which is it's a tough spot to be in because you want to be, of course, medicated for one thing, but then it screws with the other thing, right? So I just have to keep on kind of like talking to my support team and try to figure out what's the best combination. But so far, it's pretty good. I don't know.
It is good when you find a combination. I remember when after I got out of hospital for all this blood stuff, they were like, "How are you feeling mentally?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm doing okay. Like I feel normal, but it's just waking up covered in blood. It's having an effect. I don't want to turn out like Dexter Morgan and have a blood fetish and start murdering people. Is there something we can do about that?" And my doctor talked me through a bunch of antidepressants. And I was just like, I don't know, man. Can we go with the lightest one? And I went on them. And once they kicked in after about 2 weeks, I had to get straight off them. I was unable to make music anymore. But you are right. It's a combination of finding the right thing that works with your makeup. Uh, is there any advice you can give to people who may be struggling with making the jump to speaking to somebody about what they're going through? Because I think it's important to hear. I mean, let's be honest. Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, the reason these things succeed is because they have people in their organization who have been there and done that. So, do you have any advice for somebody who may be struggling at the moment on steps to take and fears to overcome and the best practice to get to where you need to get to?
Yeah, I think that, and of course, I'm not a licensed professional, but
That
take
doesn't matter.
this right. So I would say you have to you have to find the right people to talk to, but they're out there. If it's a licensed professional, it's a licensed professional. But if you feel more comfortable with talking to someone that you can trust, reach out because the more you let it. I mean, people have said this a million times, but unless someone, because I don't think we as people can gauge our personal perspective and see because we have blind spots. We don't know if something is off in our head because we're gradually ourself every day, and if something kind of gradually comes in, we don't really notice it. So if we tell someone our issues, then they can see the inconsistencies. They can see the kind of like, oh, something is actually kind of going on. And worst case scenario is there is something going on and you get treated for it, right? No one's going to try to make it worse. It's just if you can get treatment for anything that you happen to be going through, it's good. And it's really good, in my opinion, it's really good to have a focal point. If I know what's going on, then it's something I can handle. It's something I can deal with. But if I don't know what's going on, that just makes it just an endless mystery, which is just absolutely stressful. So,
And one of the hardest things about mental illness, I even hate, man, it's so hard with words, because
mm,
whatever you say, it sounds derogatory these days. Everyone's needs to put a
mm,
spin on it. The hardest thing about it is conveying it and getting people to fucking believe and understand. And
mm,
it's so hard when somebody you're explaining this is what's happening here in my head, And people are like, "Are you sure?" And it's like, "Fucking, of course I'm fucking sure. Like this is what's going on. I'm telling you."
Oh yeah.
And this is what creates a stigma. And at the same time, like I can put it to trans. Like we live in a world, mate, where everyone goes, but I don't understand it. And I sit there and go, thank fuck you don't understand it. Trust me, you don't want to. Like, I don't want people to experience this. It sucks. I don't want to have this mental condition where I think I'm a fucking girl. It's really fucking bullshit. And I know you can't understand. Most people can't. But, like, that's the way it is. But when people, discredit it, it's like, it must be real because I don't understand it. But you are right. Find a practitioner that you can talk to. It is the most important thing. And trust.
And one thing I would say about even practitioners is you're going to run into professionals that probably don't gel with you. So like find people that understand and care about you as much as possible. Find your fit and don't be afraid. Like if you get a doctor that you're like this is not working, vouch for yourself. Find something that works for yourself. And yeah. Well, I was going to touch on one thing, the internet, and how people just endlessly vilify anything from, you see it with the, like calling people Karens or calling people, or saying like pumpkin spice lattes, let's say.
Yes.
Right? People, it could be anything, just random. It doesn't have to, it could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. Just when people stereotype and again, put people into boxes, then it's really funny. I think there's people who they want to understand everything and not think about it. And there's other people who want to constantly think about how they can better understand the world. So there's like know-it-alls and people who know that they know nothing, and the know-it-alls always think they're right. And I don't think that's ever going to change. But how do we deal with it? How does someone who wants to find out truth? How does someone who wants to know just live on this planet really in a way that is not where people just constantly want us to suffer. It's just there's a lot of stuff going on in the world, and when I think about it, I try to look introspectively in myself and try to ask myself down the deepest levels, like where are my motivations? Where am I moving from? Like where's my direction? And I think at my core, my direction is empowering others, and it that's the biggest thing for me. Doesn't mean that simply because I want to empower others or help others that I will all the time, because just circumstances won't permit that. It's all random. So it's like if I just know that I'm trying to go into the world and generally make it a better place, then I think I can kind of live with other people projecting their nonsense onto me, if you know what I mean. Like,
yes, I hear you. It's it's interesting. We talked about boxes, and I think the school system has a lot to answer for. Again, we're all thrown into this one box with this expectation of everybody's at the same level mentally, and everyone play nice together. And it's like, are you shitting me? Have you seen some of the people you've thrown me in this box with? Right? And I may have, like, for example, I've got bipolar, but have you seen this guy who just punches people because of the shoes they're wearing? To me, that is a mental disorder that needs to be, like, maybe, I don't know, have a part of their brain removed. Because talking about mental health, Jared, it was only 60 years ago, people were sticking poles into people's eyes and severing brains for somebody going, I kind of feel a bit weird today. So,
yeah.
and it's only really
And
been...
you know what?
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, I
No.
just want to jump in on there. The reason why they did that is because they weren't fitting into society. It's
Yes.
because they weren't fitting into a box. It's because they were an embarrassment to their family because they
Yes.
didn't do the same thing that everyone else did. So all the people who like want to be individuals and unique and all that stuff like that, you really like society and life for the majority of history, even now to a great degree, has never really they've only really celebrated uniqueness if it like benefits them or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but like it's really you know, despite all the challenges of being yourself, just do it to the best degree you can. People are going to be pissed off if you're yourself or if you're anyone else, and like it just doesn't matter. Just do it, and like you were saying, do what makes you happy. It's good to like do if what makes me happy is making other people happy. Specific people, like not everyone, because certain people are just going to be mad that I exist, right? Like so,
They're going to be mad that
yeah.
we, you know, this is the thing. A lot of creative types, we are dancing monkeys. Let's be real.
Hmm.
If it wasn't the creative types and the outlandish spoken and those kind of people, the unique people end up being the bear on the hot plate.
Mm.
I'm dancing for you, and they're clapping along. But, you know, they were the same people that at school in that box were getting punched. You know what I'm saying? I remember it
Hmm.
from school. All these people would be like, yeah, you're so weird, and punch. And it's like, ow, that hurt. And then years later, they're at one of my gigs. Yay, remember me from school?
Mm.
I'm like, I clearly remember you, dickhead.
Yeah.
I remember you punching me for doing this, you asshole. Yeah. Let's play a song. Let's play another song. We're going to play
All right.
Under Streetlights. This is Midnight Bandit, folks. Under Streetlights. You ready to odes? Let's odes. Let's do it right now. Boom.
Midnight Bandit.
Under Streetlights by Midnight Bandit. Now, all the songs that were chosen today were by the artists themselves. That is what we do here, and I think that's the best way to go so they can represent their best selection of music to themselves. Because if you don't love what you do, what are you doing it for? You know what I'm saying? Let's talk about... Now, dealing with mental health comes along with other things. You touched on this very briefly, and that is the struggle of employment and even homelessness. And, man, we both have something in common with this. I found myself homeless in 2018 and never thought that would happen. But there I was, living in a park with a couple of bags of clothes, a guitar, hiding under a tree with a knife each day, scared that somebody was going to take the little possessions that I had. How did it get to a point where you got in that position, and what was the path to get out of it? And you know, it's a really hardcore thing to deal with. I want to hear your experience if you're willing to share. Whoops, got you muted. Sorted. Oops, I've lost your sound. Hang on. I've lost your sound for some reason. Are you muted? There we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we got you back.
Okay.
All good.
So, essentially, I was living with my girlfriend at the time, in a one-bedroom, and then we broke up, and I couldn't afford the rent, and at that time, I wasn't really taking my medication regularly, and there was a lot of things that were going on, and then I can't really tell you how bizarre and how just completely detached from reality I was, but this can happen if like I don't take my medication, or if I use you know, illicit substances or something like that, specific ones, like especially the stimulants, which is kind of funny because I'm on a stimulant right now for my ADHD, but I'm trying to change that. But essentially, I would just wander. I had no place to go really for the majority of it, so there'd be nights where I'd just be walking along the highway for, you know, I'd be awake maybe 3, 4 nights at a time, and I was skinny as a rail, sunburnt, absolutely filthy, stinky, and I felt wherever I went, people kind of just didn't acknowledge me on a very fundamental level. And I feel the hardest part about being homeless is like, I guess it's facing a fear, because for a long time I thought my fear was to be perceived as not having any value, and that I definitely faced that fear because people, I would go up to them and ask them if they knew where the homeless shelter was. I would ask them things. They just pushed past me and just kind of, I'm sure they would be much happier if I was just, you know, locked up somewhere. So I know on a very fundamental level how not callous, but like maybe a bit of that, but like how much contempt people have for homeless people, because a lot of people just think, you know, there's a certain type of person who's like, the reason why I have all the things in my life is because I've made XYZ choices, and it's because I made those choices, I'm like an awesome, amazing person. I have no flaws. But oddly enough, the world can have different stories and different people and different experiences, and they're all to some degree valid. And they all can happen to anyone. Like anyone can have this happen out of nowhere. Yeah. Unless you've experienced it, like I bet you can attest to this, Jade. Unless you've experienced it, it's really, really difficult to kind of wrap your head around it.
Yeah, it really is. One day you're flying high, and you know the world, no matter what, is cruel. Even when you're flying high, there's the struggles. But then all of a sudden, when you just people look at you like you made poor decisions, and there's no way you can ever make a good decision again. And it's like,
Yeah.
hang on a minute. You make poor fucking decisions every day. You just made a poor decision by thinking that. Things can change, but when you're in that situation, it feels hopeless. It it's almost worse than being thrown out on the stage with no clothes on in front of thousands of people. I could handle
Well,
that. In fact, I've done that, and it was less
yeah.
troublesome.
Do you mind if I just say something?
Of course,
It's like,
this is your show.
yeah, yeah. So, I was gonna say something about how, like, I think people end up dehumanizing and vilifying anyone who it makes them afraid to kind of try to empathize with. A lot of people just make the choice to not empathize with certain people because they've already considered them as the enemy, like us versus them mentality, where it's like I have to be the exact opposite of said person, and because they're bad, because they have immoral choices and blah blah blah. And we do this so much. We like a lot of people end up splitting apart society into so many different it like I couldn't imagine living on this planet being like everyone's a bad person or taking someone else's opinions as way too personal. But maybe I'm losing the plot now. I'm just kind of, yeah, it touches on some heavy emotions, kind of remembering that feeling of like if I thought that I was inadequate, now here's the proof. People really don't think I can improve my life. People think it's gonna get worse, so it's like best to disassociate, best to kind of like push him to the side because it's like I don't want to watch. It's like watching a train crashing or something to their mind, but I got out of it, and I was able to find my way back into housing. Had a lot of issues throughout the years through with addiction and being around abusive individuals, and just kind of having a bad opinion myself. I had a bad mentality really for a long time, and you know, as much as I could say that a lot of my life has been spent doing things that were harmful to me, I'm just happy that better late than never. Now I've gotten to a point where I'm like absolutely sure that if I want to live my life in a meaningful way, then I can, and my life is fairly good. I can be grateful for a lot of things.
When I was in that situation, mate, I felt hopeless, and
Mm,
I thought all of humanity was dog shit, and sometimes I still do think that. But there were people that pulled me out of it. People in services that came along that get far little recognition for the work they do, and it's funny. When I was growing up, I used to look at the church and go, and I
mm,
had this stupid, fanciful idea in my head that it was full of
mm,
people that looked after others. And as I got older, I've realized that there's a lot of outspoken people within that who just hate people. And that's,
mm,
of course, never speaking for all people who are in that situation. But it just seems like that. But the people who came out and found me when I was homeless, I owe my life to them. And in fact, one of
mm,
them is coming to see me today to try and help me get out of the situation I'm currently in again, because you make
mm,
these people are constantly there to help. So, I mean,
mm,
I think the point I'm trying to get to is there is hope, even in those
mm.
dire moments. So, was there someone? Was there a service in particular that helped you get off your feet and get to where you needed to go at that time? Something that
There
stood
was
out.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was basically one person and one person only, and I think I've mentioned, maybe I may or may not have mentioned that I had a mentor from when I was 19 all the way until now, basically. And he went above and beyond. Like he was able to show so much care and kind of be generous, and he did this for everyone. Like I'm not a special case, but this guy was just absolutely amazing, and he basically he allowed me to use the computers at this place, and then that's how I found the ad for the apartment. And throughout my life, he's just been supporting me in so many different ways. But I don't want to get into it, just for his anonymity, if I'm saying that right. But He's a wonderful person, and the only reason why I'm here right now is mostly because of that person. And yeah, it's just incredible. You know, there are people out there who are just absolutely the opposite of awful.
Yeah,
So
there really are. Mate, we have lived a very parallel. I had a very same guardian angel. I don't even know the person. There was somebody online who reached out to me in my time where shit was really bad, sent an email
mhm.
to me and said, "You don't know me. You wrote a song called 'Do What Makes You Happy.' It changed my fucking life. I'm alive because of that song." And I've never met them, and they sent me money and financially kept me going while I was homeless.
Yeah, by the way, I did want to mention I saw when you were talking about this. I don't know if it was on one of your shows or if it was an interview or something like that, but I actually went and bought their album. So I do remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting stuff. It's like kind of experimental, kind of cool. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's just the story, it's really cool.
it gives you hope in a time when you look around and we're bombarded, man. We're bombarded with so much negative shit every day, and it's especially on the internet. We were talking about this before the show. You sit here on this internet and these echo chambers, the things we watch, we then get flooded with and creates more anxiety on top of more anxiety. And then sometimes you walk away from this fucking internet and go outside, and there are fucking people out there smiling and just enjoying their life. Do you think the internet is, I mean, it's good, but do you think it's changing our algorithms in our brains down a dangerous path?
To be honest, I think it's like a nuke for our mental health. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, for the most part, it can just turn into something that is completely strip us of our mental capacity to empathize and to really be a person. Because the more time you spend on the internet, the less time you spend actually connecting with people. I mean, unless you're in an interview like this or you know you're talking with people, but it really is a place that can polarize you, can make you an extremist in ways that are not helpful to your mental health or the world. They can just absolutely if like they can stoke the fires. If you have maybe we all have insecurities and
Yes.
inadequacies that and the internet almost has like a Wikipedia article that has every single known in insecurity, and then it sends you straight to the place where it just stokes the
Yeah.
fire, and just like I don't know. I think some kind of restrictions have to be put into place because as much as we think like, oh yeah, the internet's been around forever, it really hasn't, and we're still kind of in the Wild West, in my opinion. I think there's a lot more that has to be done to really understand how impactful and dangerous this stuff can be, especially when we're getting into the potential for even like AI and even crazier computing potentials and stuff like that. It's just something that we can't just sit by and say, oh, it's gonna end the world. We do have to start standing up and talking about it. I think not that we aren't already, but the internet is absolutely like a super weapon in my opinion. So yeah, no, I don't think it's great for mental health. I think going outside and being with like an animal, like my cat. When my cat comes here, and I want to spend as much time with my cat and just look into her eyes and see the intelligence, the empathy, the warmth, the sentience behind her eyes, and just think to myself, this is like it's not so bad, right? So.
Yeah. Two good points here. Ed Zielinski says the internet makes it faster and easier than ever for things to destabilise. Equilibrium and balance in society in the world is actually the exception to the rule. And Jenny says, I think a
Mhm.
big part of the problem is the algorithm. It could create connection and support, but money and power is to be made dividing and conquering. And look, we have we're quite lucky in this very small little community we have of music makers. It's not growing too at a fast rate where it's out of control, and we do back each other as much as we possibly can, and try and keep the
Mhm.
drama. It's a community that is surprisingly not a lot of drama, right? Compared to a lot of other places I've been to over the years on the internet. But you forget that things like TikTok, and you think of somebody with bulimia or something, they go on TikTok and they write bulimia, and then their whole feed for the next however long they're using it is just full of bulimia. And
Right. It triggers them.
yeah, you're isolated already, and then you're just surrounded by this thing in an isolation bubble of just this. This brings me to this point here. I think, and I asked you this offline, I'm going to ask you this before we play another song. Do you think that sometimes we can get stuck in letting a diagnosis of whatever it is control our being? That once we're diagnosed, then that's the thing that is the driving force of our life.
Yeah, I'd say it just is as easy as this. Is you have to realize that even the trained like professionals, the psychologists, psychiatrists, they barely know what's going on. So how are you going to take their title and assume that you know more than them, or that they know more than you? It's about living your life in whatever way that you can. It's about living your life in whatever way that you can that would give you meaning. Sometimes it's not even about happiness. Sometimes it's about just existing in a way that's meaningful to you. And I don't see that being possible if you're letting some label dictate everything that you do. Like, I don't know, but everyone is in a different place mentally, and some things are a bit more like that. Like even schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder. Like I find myself sometimes doing it. I find myself relating that to myself because I think in this culture, at least the one like Western culture, I think a lot of people just determine who people are by what they are, what they do. That we all want to have like some kind of title or description, have our sound bite so that we can, meet other people and network and all that stuff like that and just be someone. But really, it's about doing what makes you feel like you have a meaningful life. That's about it.
Does it make you happy? Really,
Yeah.
It isn't that hard. I mean, I remember when I come out trans and all the negativity that was around it. And if you look at my bios on my website, I call myself gender optimized. And people look at it and go, well, I don't even know what that means. And it's like, well, that's it. Because I don't want you to, I don't want to be a part of this term over here that you've already weaponized. So I think it's a fun thing to make up your own terms and keep people scratching their heads because, it's so easy to demonize a term these days. We even the word gay, let's go back. Man, gay used to mean fucking happy. Now it means you enjoy a bit of a rumpa up the bumper.
I think the essential idea, because I see this a lot with like autism spectrum, like people weaponize the term autism, and there's nothing bad about the term.
No.
Right? Like there's nothing inherently bad about any of these terms. It's not the terms themselves. It's really the people who just want to weaponize anything that they can get their hands on. Right? That's, I think, the majority of the issue.
It's projection, isn't it? It's projection.
Yeah, it is.
We live in a world of people living in so much fear that they're just ready to throw their fear onto anyone else who's dealing with the same fear. I think that's what it is. I mean,
a lot of it comes down to fear. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, I walk around and I love people watching. I'm sure you're a people watcher. Most of us are. You go out and I build up these little stories in my head looking at people. I go, I wonder what they do when they go home. And when I see somebody really angry and fucking just, the first thing I think is, I bet you go home and. I said this before the stream. I would hate to see your internet browsing history because I bet it is full of darkness. And
To be honest, when I go out, I'm kind of not really a people watcher. I'm like, I hope the people are. I'm hoping the people aren't really me. Or sorry, I'm hoping that the people aren't watching me. That's more what I'm concerned with. I'm like, I just want to like exist in this world and go get my things and go back home and see my cat. That's me. But I used to kind of be a people watcher, but then I'm like, if I want to create characters, then I'll put them in my stories, which is something actually if we could touch on for a second the
Yes.
electric noir.
Well, yeah, we're coming. Let's play a track, and then we'll come back with that's
Okay.
next on my list, my friend. Let's play
Awesome.
a track. Let's play this. This is Sacred Vision, everybody. Grab your ankles, grab your drink, whatever it is that makes you happy. And let's play this track. I don't even have it queued up. Listen to me. So professional. Let's get it back here. Let's do it. So, you ready? This is Sacred Vision by Midnight Bandit. Boom. And we are back. Folks, that was Sacred Vision from Midnight Bandit. Now, we normally run an ad at the halfway point, and I forgot, so we're going to run it now. Let me just run this ad quickly. So you can avoid the ad by becoming a YouTube Premium subscriber or just by skipping the ad. And the ad has been run. While I'll let you know, I want to show you what's coming up here on the show this weekend. That's the wrong one. Where are we? This one. The opening hour this week. If you're into the big four, you're going to get it today, this weekend. Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax were classed as the big four thrash bands in the world at a period of time during the 80s. And this week on the opening hour, we're going to celebrate all those four bands, and I'm going to attempt to sing their songs. Welcome back. If you got an ad. All right, let's just, before we get into Electric Noir series, how the fuck did you find this community?
Well, that that was because someone wanted to use one of my beats, and at the same time, okay, so this one person wanted to use my beat, and I also found another artist who just happened to, I think he liked one of my songs. This is all on SoundCloud, by the way. So I decided that I was going to go and listen to his music, and I thought it was really good. I still do. It's an amazing, amazing music. His name's Foxsao, which is Foksao. It's not, yeah. Anyways,
Nice.
Anyways, so he's awesome. Yeah, he's one of the people that I can relate to best. But one day we were like, the other guy, Drunk Robot, he told me about this group called Real Talk Radio. And then one thing led to another. I went on to Ron Ward's show because I just thought, this is amazing. I like having the chance and opportunity to get my music out there to people. It didn't seem like a possibility at that point. For years, I had absolutely zero listeners. I had no fans. I didn't have a community, and just once I found Ron Ward's show, I was like, that just blew my mind, and I was like on cloud nine for a long time, and then it just eventually grew from there. And I think I've done, I think it's 3 song timbres now with the whole Pete Johns song timbre thing. And it just, this community is just amazing. It's absolutely changed my life. And I'm dumbfounded when I think about how it just seems surreal. It seems like it's a dream. So thank you, everyone.
This community wouldn't be the same if you weren't in it, right? Everyone has their part, and I think what's so beautiful about it is, and there has been some drama, but the best way to deal with it is just fucking ignore it, and it'll disappear. But for the most part, like, everyone's so unique and different in their own way, and I think the most beautiful thing about it is that it encourages us to listen to things that are outside our realm of interest, and that only makes you a better musician, to take on different influences and such like that. So you start making music. We'll talk about how you make music shortly, but tell us about this Electric Noir series that you have been doing. Give us the ins.
So it all started when I was in elementary school, and I had been reading novels for a long time. Well, I guess it's not that long because I was in elementary school, but I really appreciated stuff that had more depth to it, that was immersive and had words that felt like you could feel them in like a tactile way, like any kind of poetry that can kind of, the words sound like they feel or something. I don't know how to explain it, but essentially I didn't know that I could actually do that myself, that I could create stories. So for the longest time, I just read and read and read and read, and I was well read on a lot of fiction. And then out of nowhere, the teacher says, "Oh, by the way, we're going to be doing creative writing today, and you can just write about whatever you want." And that just since then, I've been trying to write more on a regular basis, but I found that my writing, it's hard to do with ADHD, especially sticking to one thing and staying committed for a long period of time. It's hard to do. So, but with the advent of AI on the phone, I use ChatGPT, and I only use it for one thing, and that's to fix my dictation errors. I don't like make content with AI. I will speak into the phone and just because I can obviously you can tell I'm pretty loquacious. I can talk for a long time, and I'm pretty sure about what I'm talking about. So essentially, I can just tell the story into this phone, and do it piece by piece, and then I put it into Google Docs and I edit it. I usually change a lot about it once it's in Google Docs, but it's like it's to talk about the actual story itself. I have a video on my channel called I think it's Welcome to the Electric Noir, and it's an introduction on everything in the story and stuff like that. But essentially, it's something that that's it right there, and it'll tell you about the characters. It'll tell you about the general vibe, the settings and stuff. It's a sci-fi adventure. For me, the reason behind it isn't to broadcast some intense meaning or do an Aesop fable kind of thing. It's more to just really be self-indulgent and make an escapism kind of utopia where you can just turn off your mind and have fun for be inspired. That's what I want from my electric noirs. I want people to listen to it, be like, wow, this is really fun and engaging, and I don't really have to think about the deeper meanings, or like it's not something heavy and thick and rich like I don't know, Schindler's List or whatever, right? It's something that is just it's like the equivalent of a popcorn movie, if you know what I mean. It's one of those ones where you just go to the movie theater because you're just with friends and you have a drink or two and you just want to have a fun time. It's like, I don't know, some 90s action movie or something like that, like Blade or whatever, It's just like that's how I feel about it. So
I love it because, again, things are better out than in. And these are great ways to express and stop the shit that goes around our minds. It's like making music. It's like whatever it is that you got to get out, it saves you from carrying around in your brain because that, as we've discussed, the brain can carry stuff around way too long. And so when it comes to making music for you, is there a process? Because look, I'm just going to say this, and everybody's been saying this in the chat. I don't know if you've seen a lot of the comments. Or you'll go back and see them later on. You have a way of. You're definitely a producer. You're able to put together stuff really well to create moods, textures, and for somebody who hasn't had learned background in music, you do it really fucking well. Really fucking well. And, you said before, I don't know anything about scales. Well, it sure doesn't sound like it. It's like, there's nobody out there who sits there and listens to a song and goes, I really like that song, but I just found out they recorded it using this type of microphone. I don't like it. And it's the same. If they found out that you had no background in music, that's not going to change anything because it's not evident. But what is your process to put together a song? Is it different each time? Tell us about that.
My process has changed recently, but it's essentially the same for the most part. I'll open up my DAW and I will find I like using breaks, and if people don't really know what a breakbeat is, then it's just a part. It was a section of like an old soul and funk record where the drummer would take a break for a second. It was just the drums playing. People have taken that and created hip hop with it by chopping it up, speeding it up, stretching it, a whole bunch of different things. And that's how I make music. If I was to really try to find a label for my music, most of it is like in some way, some form of breakbeat. And so I'll pick a cool break. I'll usually chop it up in my DAW. I used to just take a synthesizer and then go into the piano roll, which is like a grid. And it's like all the notes up a piano. So it's C, C, D, D sharp, or C, C sharp, D sharp, whatever. I'm messing it. So the and then the other side is time. So you can pluck away at it was like building Legos, right? It was like building songs, and I could spend as much time and just kind of get immersed in what I thought sounded right. And I guess my taste was good because from the beginning I mean, the songs weren't technically good, but the ideas were there. And when I go back to listen to my old music, I think like if I knew what I knew now, but back then, this song would have been like, it would be something different. But yeah, I don't try to make anything perfect. Like I would say I'm an imperfectionist, right? Which is kind of my favorite thing. So, and then I just layer on drums, and then I pan them, and then yeah, that's about it. Uh,
So
I think it'd be
so you're
sorry.
imperfectly perfect.
Uh, yeah, I guess I don't know. I'm probably just more imperfect, but
Is there a particular door that you use to make music? Is there
mm,
a particular let's run through
yeah.
what you use, what gear, what's your
Yeah,
go-to? Because we have I here on this show I talk about apps all the time, and I try to say it all the time.
yeah.
Apps aren't Pokemon. You don't fucking need them.
Mm.
Not normally most of us have 5 things that we go to each time, guaranteed. What would you say are the 5 things that you go to put together a song, door, effect, or whatever?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Did you say five? Is this the part where I talk about the apps that
No,
I use?
no.
Okay.
I'm just throwing this out. See, sometimes I don't even bring that up anymore.
Foreshadowing.
I don't even bring that
So,
up sometimes anymore.
okay.
So yeah, let's just go.
So I have an Ableton push controller.
Right.
It's like right in front of me. I could show you. But anyways, what I do is I impromptu. I don't have a melody in my head. I haven't practiced any melody. I just sit there, turn on the thing, pick an instrument, and just mess around until I have something that sounds pretty cool, and then I move on. I move on to the next part of the song, just build something that complements that, and then next part, and I just do it quickly, not because I want it to be done efficiently, but that's like just how my brain works. It's not it's not because I'm trying. It's the reason why I'm prolific is not because I'm trying to be prolific. It just happens to be that my process just goes pretty quickly. And then I take it from Ableton. I have Ableton Intro, Ableton 12 Intro, which
Mm-hmm.
is like a lesser form. It only costs me like 100 and something dollars Canadian. And I'm learning that my original DAW was and always will be FL Studio, and I have that. I have the I think Producer's Edition or something. I'm not sure, or it's something like that. Anyways, I've learned on FL Studio for a long time, but now that I have this instrument in front of me that I can play, I don't think I'm going to go back to just clicking notes into the MIDI map or the piano roll or whatever you want to call it. Um, but then at the end of it, I'll like try to pick a cool picture, and then I'll name it something that aligns with that picture. Some songs they already bring to mind, like the title of the song. I think a lot of people really latch on to a song based upon the title, especially if it's an instrumental. If you've got a cool sounding word, and so far I've made on my SoundCloud, I think I have 758 or 759
Shit.
beats, and that's since 2020.
Wow.
So, and I think I only have one, maybe two songs that that have the same name. So I don't know if that's like a special skill of mine, but it's just like I can find lots of unique, cool things.
Man, don't be me. I released a song on my first album, a DreadCircus album, and then for this new album I've been working on for way too long, I only realized about 8 months ago that I've reused the entire lyrics from another song and name. And so
So,
I had to bin this song. I'm like, what the hell?
oh
I've
no.
already released this song with these lyrics. What? Why did my brain do this thing? Who can explain? Brains. That's what we've talked about today. Let's quickly mention, I did say I would say hello to people who came in late.
Mm-hmm.
Gortium, Hetriani, hello. Jorge, hello to you. I saw Paul O'Farrell. I saw Crimson Crux earlier. Hugh Caldwell, I haven't said hello to. Barry Glenn. There's been a whole bunch of you that have come in since we've been doing this interview. If I have missed you, I do apologize, my friends. Thank you for spending time with us today and supporting my dear friend here at Midnight Bandit, because he is fucking awesome. I love to hear people's process, because now, I was a Fruity Loops user as well. I know Thomas Christ is Fruity Loops. I still call it Fruity Loops. Look how bad I am. That shows my fucking age. I miss Fruity Loops. Bring back Fruity Loops. FL Studio sounds too boring. But you touched on something before about how music can look like building blocks. It's for me, like coming from an analog world of going into recording studios and using tape when I was younger. We have moved to that. It almost looks like Tetris these days. Music has become these Tetris blocks of everything so formal and organized, where before it was just this tape that was chopped up and so caveman-like put together. Do you think the way we are making with digital music, we're in a better space? Because it seems like there's so many app developers who are trying to reintroduce things like tape warble and all the shit that made music hard. They're trying to bring back. Are we in a better space in this digital realm to make music than the old days, or should we ditch this whole digital world?
I think that goes without saying. I think that almost, so much more is possible. Therefore, it's probably better. So, and the bar to entry is a lot lower. I mean, look at we're here on a channel that talks a lot about Logic and especially GarageBand, and I think a DAW like that just like people are, maybe they don't even think about making music and they see it on their iPad or something. They're like, oh, GarageBand, what is this? And then they're like, oh, I can make music. I didn't know that. And then 10 years later they've got a few albums. It's amazing how technology is making it easier. There obviously are downsides. Like I know that you had a rant about AI music, and to me, it's you can't be an AI musician if it's like saying I'm a Metallica musician because I typed in Metallica into the YouTube search and it came up with Metallica. Like, see, I did that. It's like, no, you didn't.
No.
It's like. And I think that AI art is theft. I think that people should be eventually compensated for it. I don't know if it's going to happen, but it really should. Like, it's absolutely atrocious what people are doing as far as stealing, even on YouTube, like their content and stuff like that, just to train algorithms. Well. There is one good thing that I wanted to say about AI, is that if there was a way that AI could connect me with the right audience, if it could analyze my music and say like, oh, these people would love your stuff, so we're gonna send it out to you. I mean, that would be cool. Other than that, I think like literally asking a robot to create a song is like, it takes the entire point of it out of it, right? Like the entire point is the process.
Yeah.
Like, would you get a robot to dance for you?
I don't know. I don't have a robot yet.
Well, if it's a good dancer, yeah, but you're not
Maybe.
going to call yourself the dancer if you want to dance.
No.
I don't know. Maybe I'm going off the rails here,
I would want to dance with it. I wouldn't want it to teach me to dance. That's
my projection. I want to dance with a robot.
Yeah, let's do that. Not Elon's. It'll probably kill you. That's if it even works. But with AI stuff, I still use some AI art. I think I'm only subscribed to one. That's Midjourney. And I like to take it and then put it in my other software and turn it into something else. That's where I find good stuff from it, because, everything is an iterative. We iterate all the time. But when you just take in like this one thing and just plonking it here, like that's when it's fucked. It doesn't make any fucking sense. And yeah, I'm against AI music, and the reason mostly is because I see it creeping in and stealing just the hard work. And I see shows like Thomas Christ and Metalhead Hippie. We're starting to see people submit AI music, and it's sneaking in there, and you're like, hang on a minute, fucker. There's a whole bunch of real people here who actually put blood, sweat, and tears and stayed up late at night, probably going through a divorce because they're making this fucking music, and you just typed in some prompts. Fuck off. That's it's my feeling on it. I can't stand it, and whatever. So we're getting towards the end. We are at the end pretty much. I need to now. It goes fast when you're here on the show, doesn't it, Jared? When you're watching it, it goes really slow. But when you're doing this, it's like, holy fuck, is 2 hours already up?
It's amazing. I love it.
It's so I want to thank you, and I want to find out first what is next. What do you have a roadmap for what you're going to do next? Is that a healthy thing for you to do? Have you thought about doing that? Do you have an album plan? Do you have anything coming up that we should be paying attention to?
Well, I'm always making music, but essentially I have goals to put my music into video games. I have goals. If I mean, I'm probably still going to write the electric noir, but it would be nice to see if I could get some more kind of discourse going around that, or like, get people kind of get their opinions or their perspective on how the story's going. And then, yeah, my essential idea with the electric noir is to make an animated TV series. I guess it's on YouTube, but animated YouTube series, and put voice acting and sound effects. I did kind of a demo version just myself. I scrapped together this thing, and I just hope people can see promise in it. But my music is just constantly going to be being put out there. There's always probably going to be something new for me. So if you like what I do, just watch my channel, and yeah.
There is a lot of us that like what you do, and I'm just going to close with this. Now, I said to you before we came on, I said, now you wanted to come on for an interview for a while. And when I look at people who I want to interview, I have a huge list. There's so many I haven't done yet. That sounds kinky. But I pick people when it just feels like the right time. And you've been up in the list before, but then I've moved things around because it's my mental space as well. I need to be in the right space for doing this. It's a lot. And we all have mental health to take care of. And we've talked a lot about mental health today. And I want to put out there to everybody, if you're struggling with anything mental health, speak to somebody. Investigate it. Go and do something about it. Yeah? Don't live alone in fear, because you know what? You are not alone. Many of us are all dealing with it. Yeah? Are we dealing with it the right way? Most of the time we're not. But, there's help out there. People are out there to help. But I wanted you to come on here specifically this week because I watch everything you write on Facebook. And I just wanted you to know that you are loved, man. And I want to say this, there's a lot of us here who think the world of you and think your music is fantastic. And there's a lot of people who don't think that you're shit, don't think that you suck. And I know it's hard because of, the stuff that goes on in our head. But I needed to tell you this week. I needed to have you on to remind you that there's a great lot of us here who think what you do is incredible. Your mind is great, and keep exploring, keep going to those places, because you are a fantastic human being. And I think today is a celebration of all things Midnight Bandit, and the chat has just been filled with exactly what I'm saying right now. All right, my friend. Now, in saying that, if you were to give advice to somebody just starting out making music, when do you think would be the best time for them to start?
Right now, I like, stop watching this. Why are you watching this?
Exactly.
Go right now. Get it. Open your DAW.
Exactly.
Like,
Stop.
even this is just, where are you? You're still here.
Yeah, what the fuck? You should have been gone yesterday, you fucking idiots. What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's
No, it's whenever you have the time. I think, and just do it now. Do it.
Folks, my dear friend Midnight Bandit, all of his links are down in the description. Go there right now. Go listen to a song, leave a comment, leave a like. Go let him know. Go to Bandcamp, that's down there. Go buy a track. Go support this wonderful human being who, does care a lot and shares a lot of his feelings with us, and show your love back to him. Now, he's chosen this song to end today, and it's called Stank Face. Tell us why you chose this song to end this. Yeah, Jared.
When people do that, when you're like, "Hey, do you want to hear this like really heavy bass?" And then you're like, "Boom!" And they're
drop.
like that's the ultimate
Right.
reaction that you want from music. It's not the ultimate reaction you want from a doctor, but it's the ultimate reaction you want from music. So
I don't know. There's been a few times I've done that to doctors just to see that. Experiences with doctors. We could talk about it forever. Now, you bring up a good. There was a point made. Now my brain's gone. See, here's my brain. It's something we're going to talk about in the rant this week that we touched, and I can't remember now because my brain hurts. Anyway, let's get out of here for today. I have to go and look at stupid fucking houses, and I'm so tired of it. You know what? Can we get an AI that just gets me a new house and gets me moved in and all that stuff? Because, man, I could deal with less stress. Thank you to everybody here in the chat for hanging out. You guys are wonderful. You've kept it up around 30 people today, back and forward. So, you know, you guys are just amazing for supporting what I do on the channel and our amazing artists that come on each and every week. I'm going to let you know now something that I've been holding back. Next week's artist is... I'm really excited. Her name is Shelley Siegel. Go look her up. She's a huge artist who did the theme music for the Atheist Experience on YouTube. She's had a whole bunch of hit singles, and she's coming on here next week. Very gracious to have her on and have her time. So that is happening next week, sponsored by DistroKid. We're going to get out of here, do a bit of stank face. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Midnight Bandit, for sharing your story. Yeah, that is very kind of you to do so. Anything you want to say to our kind folks watching before we leave?
Just know that your inherent value is more important than anything on the planet, and that we can all empower ourselves and each other together. You know, it's beautiful having you here, all of you, every single person. So, as always, stay frosty.
Stay frosty, folks. Let's oge. This is Stank Face. What do you say, hippie? Boom. Exactly. Let's oge.